All right, so I'm 21. I have built multiple seven-figure companies at this point, and while I'm far from having made it, so to speak, I've definitely learned and built a lot of skills along the way. And in my first ever business, by the third month, we were doing $50,000 cash collected, and it was in the agency model. And I get asked by a lot of young guys, hey, if I'm starting out, if you had to start over, what would you do? So that's just what I want to address in this video, is kind of talk about if I was starting from absolutely zero, again, I had nothing, what I would do and why I would do it. So for me, there are generally three things I look for in a new beginner style business model that's going to make it worth doing. The first one is how much can I actually take home, right? I don't really care about a big fancy revenue number in that business, because if that money isn't going to me, it doesn't end up meaning very much. And especially when you're starting out, normally you don't have a lot of startup capital or the luxury of like an investor or something like that. Now, the second thing I want to build is actual skills, because for me, especially when I started, my main thing is I never thought the agency would be my last ever business. I didn't think I was going to be servicing landscapers running their Facebook ads for the next 40 years. But I wanted to start a business that, one, made me money, but two, built actual tangible skills instead of just being sort of like a fad. And so an example of, in my opinion, something that's more of a fad would be like TikTok Shop. I think that's something that will get oversaturated very quickly as more and more people do it, because there's such a low barrier to entry. It really doesn't require an enormous amount of skill, and so that means you don't have a lot of what we call moat in business, which is a reason other people can't just come in and replace you. And then the last thing I look for is a genuine demand. So I want something that is not just a nice to have for people or businesses. I want a need to have, because that means there's always going to be a lot more demand for it, which means, especially as a beginner, there's a larger, what we call total addressable market of people who want to buy your stuff. Now, what initially hit those for me was the SMMA model. So this was selling Facebook ads to local businesses and basically building out their ad campaigns, running them for them, and getting paid a monthly retainer month after month. So I'd acquire a client, they pay me $2,000 a month, I do all their advertising. As much as I love that model, and I'm actually in the agency space, and I'll kind of explain that in a second, it's so oversaturated selling just a retainer of Facebook ads to local businesses that you have to be very, very skilled at sales or have a really good background in terms of advertising and a lot of social proof, essentially, that you can show to be able to actually get clients for it. And because of that, I don't think it's a great beginner business model, because if it's super hard to acquire your first customer, you're not going to build the actual skills we're trying to stack up, which is the ability to fill and do really good marketing and really good ads for your clients. But the really cool thing now is that there's a huge rush on AI. And I'm sure you've seen it in like big industries. And hold on, if you're like, oh man, I've heard the AI thing before, stick with me. I promise this is not going to be like what you've probably seen online talking about selling AI to local businesses. What I'm talking about is selling AI sales teams to those businesses. And let me explain why, in my opinion, this is the best thing to do. If you could sell a sales team to a landscaping company or a roofing company or a realtor, that's a much more valuable service than just running Facebook ads. Because what Facebook ads does is it brings in the leads, but it doesn't actually do the rest, which is the nurturing and then eventually the conversion of those leads. The reason we didn't sell sales teams back in the SMMA day was because, one, you have to have experience to build and run sales teams, and two, there's the whole churn of talent acquisition and then paying commissions, and it gets very, very expensive, and it cuts into your margins. And so you kind of settle on a slightly less valuable service in exchange for it being easier to fulfill on. But the wonderful thing with AI is it gives us now the ability to build out repeatable sales teams for clients. And I'm going to tell you kind of how that works. Essentially, what we can do now is build out what are called AI sales agents. And these aren't like ChatGPT bots or basic, when you think of AI, you're probably thinking of like Claude, ChatGPT, and some of the sort of gimmicky tools. It's not like that. These are basically trained sales agents that know how to handle objections. They know specifics about the business. They know what competitors do, and so they know how to do what's called counter selling. And all of these advanced topics, which I don't want to get too deep into on this video. But the cool thing is when you demo that to a company and they see something do text and phone call and email and sell better than any of their in-house salespeople, they're going to be thinking, well, how do I get my hands on that? And the really cool thing is that takes us away from having to struggle to acquire customers, and it means our product can just be so good that they want to buy it. And when you tack this on to actually running Facebook ad services, you can become what I call a fractional CRO, where you manage bringing in revenue for those companies, and you get paid a lot more than $2,000 a month for it. And the best part is you don't have to worry about any sort of refund guarantees or minimum appointments or headache clients. You just get a smaller batch of clients, and those clients pay you more for a higher quality service. And the really cool thing is it's not super expensive to start, because you basically need three things. You need something called Go High Level, and this is a CRM platform. If you've been in the agency space, you probably already know it. This allows you to manage clients, handle texting, and all of that stuff. This is where you store clients, hold their landing pages, their websites, all of that. The second thing you need is you need the ability to run basic ad campaigns. Now, the cool part is you don't have to be excessively good at ads now, where you use landing pages and conditional logic and crazy qualifications for a lot of these local business customers, because what we're doing is we just need to generate phone numbers, names, and emails and let the AI sales teams take over the rest. And then the last thing you need is just the software to basically train and place the sales agents. And that's something that I have access to. I actually know the founder of what I think is the best AI software in the space right now, which I'll talk about in a minute. But the cool thing with this is it becomes a lot easier to grow and actually get traction. So instead of having to send hundreds and hundreds and thousands of DMs or spend thousands and thousands of dollars on Facebook ads to acquire customers, because everybody's been pitched the same thing, you're instead pushing on the front end the AI side of things, which is newer and more interesting to a lot of businesses in the first place. This means it's a lot easier to get appointments. Now, once you get those appointments and you actually get on a sales call or a sales meeting with that company, it's a lot easier to convert them, because instead of having to go through a pitch deck and convince them on why your ads are better than someone else's and all of this stuff when they've already tried ads and haven't gotten results in the past, all you need to do is demo them the AI software live, showing that conversation, and they're going to be impressed with, hey, you have access to something we don't have. What does it look like to actually get that set up? Now, I'm not saying it would be easy to sell this for $2,000 a month, but the really cool thing is you don't actually have to sell for anything up front. You can work with how most of these local businesses are used to buying leads, which is on a per lead basis. They're used to going to platforms like Angie's List or Zillow and buying leads for $150 to $200 a pop. And in exchange for that money, they instantly get a lead generated for them. And in their mind, that's lower risk. That's how they're used to doing it. And they know that for every dollar in, they get something out, instead of having to pay a retainer and kind of cross their fingers that you actually deliver. So it's a much easier sale. But on top of that, you don't have to get excessively good at the sales process. You just need to be able to undercut Angie's List or Zillow's price by a little bit. And then you also have the benefit of all of the ads you run for this person are going to be personalized to them. So that means, hey, would you rather pay $200 for a general lead sold to 5 people? Or would you rather pay $100 for an exclusive lead that already knows who you are? It ends up being a pretty straightforward decision for that company, and that's how you acquire your customer. But it doesn't stop there, because my other issue with the retainer model is not just that it's harder to get customers, but it's also worse for you as a service delivery person, because if you generate that company $200,000 of profit, and you're doing a $2K a month retainer, guess how much you make? $2,000 a month. But when you're doing on a per lead basis, one, it's easier to acquire the customer, but then two, when you deliver 100 leads because they make money off the first 10 and they reinvest, guess who also gets paid more for delivering a better product and making them more money? You as the marketer. And so that's why I think the fractional CRO model, where you're installing these AI systems, is so effective. And the crazy thing is, I don't see a lot of people doing this. There's a lot of people selling what they call AI infrastructures, but most of the time that's like AI receptionists for like dental offices and simple things like that, which are not a necessity. They're just a nice to have. It saves the company a little bit of money. But every company needs to be able to convert leads, and most companies don't have a well built out sales team, right? And they're just relying on all these retainers selling Facebook ads, and they're just dumping money down the drain. I think the phrase that really stuck with me, I heard this from one of my mentors, even the best marketer can get outcompeted by a mediocre marketer with a great sales team. And now you have the ability to build out and replicate and duplicate a sales team for any company at no extra cost. You don't have to train people, they never churn, and you don't have to pay the employees. Now, you're probably wondering, David, does this actually work? I've heard a lot of different business models. I've tried a bunch and they've all failed. I'm just gonna show you a couple of examples of clients we've helped here. So here's one. We made $16,000 in a single day off of this client. Here's another, we made $2,500 in a day off of this client. Here's another where we made $4,000 in a day off of a client. And the crazy part is those are just off of 2 clients in the last couple of weeks. And it's not just me. I'm not just a special snowflake that's able to make money. Here's examples of people I've helped scale their businesses to do the same exact model and the money they're making. So it is safe to say the model works. There's a lot of money in this space. You're probably wondering why I'm sharing all of this with you. See, I want to do something called scaling horizontally. And what this means is basically taking this model and applying it to a bunch of different businesses. I've already done it in a couple of different spaces and they make a lot of money. The problem is I'm limited by my time of being able to manage a team and enter a new market. And so I'm capped in terms of how fast I can scale horizontally. And I want to continue to take over different markets while it's still early. And so what I've been doing is I've actually been taking on people as mentees, essentially, duplicating my skills, my experience, my resources to help them build their agencies to anywhere between $10,000 to $30,000 a month, and then coming in as a fractional CRO for them to help scale that to multiple 6 or 7 figures. Now, the upside for me is that I'm going to be transparent. You will be doing more work within this exact business, but the upside for you is you have me hands-on, all of my resources, all of my tools, and all of my connections that I have, as well as my experience doing this model and knowing exactly how to do it, so you can scale extremely quickly. Now, I will say this isn't for everybody. I'm not looking for necessarily the person with the most experience, but I am looking for people who are ambitious about making a lot of money and also understand that this is not a get-rich-quick sort of scheme. This does take effort and take time because it requires actual skills to build a business model like this. But if the idea of working with me and potentially partnering with me in the future, as well as running a business that actually gives you skills and will cash flow consistently without a bunch of headaches sounds exciting, then I want to invite you to book a call below and actually speak personally with me. You're not gonna be speaking with a salesperson. This is not to sell you a program. Full transparency, most of the people that have come in, I've said no to. Because I only have so much time I can actually devote into mentoring and building out these new agencies. But the whole point is you're not just buying into a coaching program that everybody else is doing. You're gonna be getting hands-on mentorship from me. I'm only working with a couple of clients. Right now I'm gonna take on 5. And working and partnering one-on-one with those clients to really build out their agencies. You're gonna get more one-on-one help, more hands-on support than you would in any other program, because my intention is to get you to a spot where you're actually succeeding so I can partner with you and we can make a lot more money together. Because if we're making $50,000 a month with this business and I have 10%, I'm making $5,000 a month while you're making the other 45, and we're able to scale together. So it's a win-win situation. If you feel like that might be you and this sounds interesting, click the link below, let's talk. And if it makes sense, we might be partnered up in a couple of months running one of these agencies together. If not, you can absolutely build this out on your own. It'll just take more time and there's a lot more things to figure out, but I can give you a good starting place. There's a video right here that I made walking you through how to read data and run Facebook ads. This will give you a really good head start in terms of getting your first clients. So I encourage you to watch that as well. But other than that, I hope you guys got some value from this video. Hopefully you got some good insights, and I will see you in the next one. Cheers.